Welcome to the Weekly Roar, coming live from the Lion's Den, helping new managers become great leaders and awesome bosses. And now, here's your host, Greg Storch.
Hey there, everybody. Welcome to the Weekly Roar. Hey, I'm glad to see you back in the Lion's Den for this week's watch party. It's good to have you back here. Today, I'm talking about another concept in the foundations of leadership. But before we get started, for those of you who may be watching for the first time, let me introduce myself. I'm Greg Storch, and my business is called Lion Enterprise. It's a leadership development and coaching business where I'm placing my focus on helping organizations develop positive work cultures. I'm a certified professional leadership coach and also a certified speaker and trainer. We had a great topic last week as I continued my series called Follow the Leader: Concepts in the Foundations of Leadership. I spoke about our inner circle and how important it is to surround ourselves with those who not only add strengths to where we're weak, but also who support us and grow with us. It's critical to pay attention to those with whom we surround ourselves with because, as I've said before, birds of a feather flock together. If you want to soar with the eagles, you can't be hanging out with a bunch of turkeys. All right. Hey, if you couldn't make it into the Lion's Den for the Weekly Roar last week, don't worry about it. All you have to do is jump over to my website at www.lion-enterprise.com. Get to that page, and up at the top, you'll see the Lion's Pride Library. If you click on that link, you'll go to all of my videos, and you can access them 24/7 whenever you want. I cannot wait to jump into this week's topic. Now, I've named this one The Power of Empowerment. Maybe one of the biggest challenges that we face as leaders is giving up our power to others. You definitely need to be secure with who you are and with what you're doing in order to be able to do this effectively. While this concept is centered around the importance for leaders to empower their people, their followers, and to grow them, I also want to touch a little bit about on the effects this has on those we place our confidence in. Now, I've talked about this before, but it's a good place to reiterate that when we add to others, we multiply. It's the crazy math of leadership. And as leaders, we have to be focused on others instead of ourselves. You're going to hear that theme throughout today's Weekly Roar. Think of others and not yourself. If you have the ability to be selfless, if you have an abundance mindset, then empowering others will be pretty easy for you as a leader. And it's an important quality to have. Good leaders don't focus on their climb to the top. They keep their eyes open for those below them, and they look out for the leaders in their organizations and build them up. They ensure that they have the tools they need to be successful at their jobs, and they do two other critical things. First of all, good leaders also give their people the proper authority and responsibility expected for their positions. When I was an enlisted sailor in the Navy, I saw this happen all the time. The Navy and other services too allow their service members to be what we call in the service frocked. Yes, that was not a bad word. It was frocked. They get frocked to their next higher rank when they meet the requirements to do it. Now, in layman's terms, when a service member gets frocked, they're given increased authority and the responsibility that goes with it, but they're not entitled to the pay and benefits of the higher rank until the actual date of their promotion. Basically, you're given all the responsibility and authority ahead of time, but your promotion to the actual rank comes at a much later date. It's a way of recognizing the promotion of the service member prior to the date of the actual advancement to the next higher rank. So, growing up in the Navy since I was 17 years old, I always saw senior leaders giving increased authority and responsibility to sailors who had earned it. It echoes the thoughts behind the saying that to whom much is given, much will be required. Or, as Uncle Ben told Peter Parker in Spider-Man, with great power comes great responsibility. At the end of the day, this concept is about the willingness of leaders to empower others. I want to say it again. This concept is all about the willingness of the leader to empower others. As a leader, you cannot be insecure or selfish. One of the biggest responsibilities that we hold as leaders is to support our followers, encourage them, give them the power they need, and help them succeed. Interestingly, we're not taught that kind of mindset as children, are we? Think about this. How many of you watching today ever played the game King of the Hill when you were a kid? Of course, it was just a fun game back then. But if you think back to that game, what was the object of it? The object of that game was to knock others down, knock them off the top of the hill so you could be on top. You could be the one in charge. You could be the leader at the top, and you didn't want to get knocked down, right? Pretty interesting. Sometimes I wonder if that has anything to do with the common mentality I see of others always trying to knock people down, especially when those people view the people they're trying to knock down as being at a certain point in their careers or being at a certain level of success. There are people out there who are just waiting to see others fail and fall down. Sound familiar? King of the Hill. What about Follow the Leader? Another seemingly innocent childhood game, right? Wrong. Think about that game. Whoever was the designated leader, they would attempt to purposely do things that they knew their followers couldn't do. They intentionally set them up for failure so they could keep the power all for themselves, and the others stayed as the followers. So, maybe it's no wonder why some leaders have a hard time empowering others. They weren't necessarily programmed for that. Sometimes the inability to empower others is the result of, yes, that dirty little F word, fear. The fear of losing what they have. Maybe we think that if we give up the power, then we lose our own power. And ultimately, it becomes less important to the organization. In our minds, we believe that Others are becoming more powerful while we're becoming less powerful. And we don't want to give that up. We have this vision of self-importance, and to give that away is to give everything away. Another way to look at it, though, is developing a track record of developing leaders. Developing a track record of developing other leaders can lead to other achievements, and you may even get recognized and rewarded for it. Look at it this way. Would you rather be known as the leader of teams that constantly fail and never grow? Or would you rather be recognized as a leader who develops their people and encourages their growth? I was told a long time ago that my job was to work myself out of a job. Sounds strange, I know, but I quickly realized the real meaning of what they were saying. As a leader, my job was to groom those under me to grow and assume roles of greater responsibility. Ultimately, I should be training my replacement. Now, to those with a scarcity mindset, that could easily translate into, if I grow others to take my place, then I'll soon be out of a job. It's not true. But if you foster an abundance mindset, you would understand that as you're growing others, you grow yourself. You're not going to be out of a job. You'll be moving up onto bigger and better things. When I was running that IT contract in Washington, D.C., I promoted about 3 times in 4 years. Each time I promoted to a higher position, the company would come to me and ask me who I had in mind to take my place in my previous position. I virtually hand-selected all of my successors. I trained them and I prepared them to take on my positions as I left to take on greater responsibility. And that's what good leaders do. And it didn't stop there with my positions. I created tons of growth opportunities across that whole contract. When I promoted or hired people into leadership positions, I supported them. I made sure they had the training they needed to be successful in their jobs. I developed their leadership skills. I would hold training during lunch. I used to have a lunchtime meeting once a month with leaders called the Leadership Lunch, where we would all go down to the cafeteria and all the managers of the 10 different teams, we would have lunch together. I would buy lunch and we would talk about leadership topics, and I would train them in leadership skills. I also gave them the full authority and responsibility of their positions. I encouraged them to own it. I would tell them straight out, this is your team. You need to do what you feel is the right thing to do, aligned with, of course, my vision and in alignment with our mission. There were some parameters, but I wanted them to feel like they owned it. I wasn't going to come in there and override them and change what they've said unless it was a grave misstep and I had no other choice. But that never happened. I empowered them. They felt ownership of their teams. Now, I also want to share with you that if you aren't comfortable with change, then empowering others might be a challenge for you. Why? Because when you empower others, they're going to grow, and then things are going to change because of their growth. If things aren't changing around you, you probably aren't making much progress, if any at all. If you're uncomfortable with change, then I would recommend you pick up this book and read it. You may have read it already. It's a very popular book. It's called Who Moved My Cheese? It's a great book on how to deal with change. So if you feel like you're not comfortable with change or you don't deal with it that easily, give that book, Who Moved My Cheese, a read and see if that helps you with some ways on dealing better with change. Several years ago, I picked up on a buzzword circulating around the leadership circles. I saw it written many times on performance reviews of managers and other leaders. You've probably heard of this term as well. The term is change agent. Now, effective leaders not only embrace change, but they become change agents, an advocate for change. So learn to embrace change if you want to get better at empowering your people. The Navy had an admiral by the name of James Stockdale. You probably heard of him because he was a vice presidential candidate for Ross Perot in the early 90s. Now, Admiral Stockdale was a Medal of Honor recipient during the Vietnam War, and he was also a prisoner of war for over 7 years at the infamous Hanoi Hilton. The reason I'm talking about this guy is he's got some great leadership philosophies when it comes to empowering others. Admiral Stockdale once said that great leaders gain authority by giving it away. Great leaders gain authority by giving it away. And American writer Robert Ingersoll told us, we rise by lifting others. It's true. If you want to empower others successfully, you have to believe in them. You have to put them first. When they perform well, give them credit. And if they perform poorly, take the blame. That's what good leaders do. So, as leaders, what are some of the ways that we can empower others? Well, find out what they need and then get them the training to be successful. Give them the resources they need to do what they need to do. Help them set goals. Not only set them, but help them to accomplish them. And set goals that are meaningful not only to them, but also to the organization. And if they fail at reaching the goals, help them. Help them until they succeed at whatever they're trying to do. Don't set them up for failure. Another thing that I wanted to share with you is never undermine your leaders that you're trying to grow. Maybe they're your first line managers that you oversee. Don't undermine them. Give them the responsibility required to get the job done, but also the authority to affect the outcome. I was always told to praise in public and reprimand in private. And that goes hand in hand with undermining your leaders. When you're in public, you have to show your support of them. You have to show you're behind them. You have to show that you have given them the responsibility and the authority to execute the duties of their position. That's our jobs as leaders when we're growing our other leaders and trying to empower them. Look at people's greatest strengths and find ways that can leverage them to achieve significant wins. Help others make the most out of their talents and give them opportunities to do just that. And believe in people. I know it sounds pretty simple, but you have to have a belief that people can do it. And don't be afraid to give your power to other people. You have to empower them. Giving away power makes you powerful. Are you leading other people right now? Are you leading them at work? Are you leading others at home? Maybe you're leading them in your community or within your church. Look around at those who are following you and ask yourself if you're helping them to grow or if you're holding back on giving them everything you have to give. Do you honestly believe in them? Do you see their potential? Think about some of the people that are following you right now. Pick 2 or 3 of them. Do you see their potential? Rate their potential on a scale of 1 to 10. If the numbers are low, then you've got some work to do. If their potential number is not high, then you're not seeing the potential that they have, and it'll be hard for you to empower them. Now, if you want to get better at the ability to empower others, you can start with not being so concerned with job security. Lose the fear of losing what you have. Get comfortable with change. If change is happening, then you're making progress. It's a good sign. Focus less on yourself and more on others. Don't let your position define your self-worth. Believe in yourself so you can believe in others. I hope those tips are helpful to you and you understand that you don't lose power by giving power away. It's important for us as leaders to empower your people. Okay, you guys, I think that's going to do it for me this week. Of course, leave your thoughts in the comments and let me know what you think. What are some of the ways that you're empowering your people to be successful? Are you concerned about your positional security? How can you change your focus from yourself to others and be confident in who you are? Thanks so much for tuning in again this week for another weekly roar. I appreciate your support, you guys. Again, if you love this content, please share out the link to the weekly roar video that I'm going to post here after this watch party. I'm going to be back here again next week, same place, same time, to speak about yet another concept in the Foundations of Leadership. Remember, my Foundations of Leadership series is running all the way through 9/11. So next week, I want to talk to you all about the importance of modeling behavior for your followers. Followers may doubt what you say, but they usually believe what you do. and someone is always watching you, whether you realize it or not. So it's important to have consistency in character. Okay, you guys, until next week, remember, be powerful, but stay poised, just like a lion. Bye, everybody.
Thanks for watching the Weekly Roar live event at lionenterprise.com. If you enjoyed this video, please tell others to join us each week here in the Lion's Den. Thanks again, and see you next week.